My name is Pete, and welcome to my garage. Now we're ready for our direct clutch right here. I already stuck that one back on just for some reason. I don't know why. I guess I put it back together just so it wasn't in the way before. So I'm going to get my direct clutches here, get it set up so we can do the dual feed mod to this. So those things we don't need. We already don't need those shims. I'm going to go ahead and take the snap ring out of the clutches. Dump all my clutches out. Alright, now all we're left with is that piston again. We just need to take off this. Okay, now we're compressed. Get this snap ring out. All right. Now that can come out. Spring can come off. Always hook that so I don't lose the snap ring. And the piston can come out. Now here's where we're going to do our dual feed mod. As you can see, this right here is our direct clutch piston. Alright, so you have an inner and an outer seal for this direct piston. However, you have this intermediate seal sitting in the middle there. And so actually, whenever you go into third gear, the only part of the piston that's actually used is this part in here, when we could be using this entire surface area right here. So we're really only using roughly half of the available surface area to apply the clutches. So what we are going to do is we're going to take this seal in here, and it goes in the trash. It's out. It's no more. We don't need it anymore. We don't use that one anymore. And then we're just going to replace these two. So whenever it goes into third gear, the fluid's going to fill up this and this part because we've removed the seal in between the two. So I will go ahead and clean this piston up, get new seals on it, but I can't reinstall it yet. So, to match up our seals. Match up these two seals right here. Looks like we got that one from the kit. Wow, that's got a much bigger lip on it. Is that the right one? I think it has to be. It's the only one left. So we have that one right there, which is going to go on the inside, the inner seal right there. Come on, get in there. Yeah. Okay, our inner seal's on there. Now I need to match up our outer seal. What's cool is our seals that I'm getting they're kind of bigger. They look a lot like we have a lot bigger sealing surfaces than the factory ones right here. Now hopefully that means that they're going to seal better and not have burned up clutches. Okay, so those are on there. I just can't install this yet because I don't have that drilled out yet. Now a lot of times whenever you're doing all these modifications and stuff, like I've always said, it seems like, at least on a 4L60, a lot of them are just because everybody does it, that's why you do it. This one to me makes a lot of sense, right? Why not get double the surface area? Because, you know, hydraulic principle, so that makes sense. However, the fluid is now going to get to this chamber right there. In this chamber, there is a hole inside of here, right here. So right here, my pick is going in this hole. Well, what's to stop the fluid that's supposed to pressurize this from just going into that hole, which then comes into the middle sealing ring of this housing right here. And you can actually see right here. And I bet if I flashed or did my flashlight through that hole, right, we can see right there, and you can see the light right there. So that hole leads to that second sealing ring spot right there, which that in this housing is going to end up leading to this hole right here. So we need to plug this hole right here. Now there's a couple different ways you can do it. However, one thing I saw was using a 3/8 little cut plug that comes in almost every rebuild kit known to man. And I never replace these because what they're for, uh-oh, there goes all my shims. Ah, crap. Forgot about those. So right here at the very back of the transmission, you can see right here, there's a little 3/8 cut plug right there. And that's for some of the part components, which you don't really ever take out. So we always have a lot of these cut plugs left over. All right, you got my 3 holes right here that correspond to the 3 holes on that center support. It was the one on the right that we need to block off. All right, so I'm going to take this punch, I'm going to put that in there. I'm just going to drive this in until it's flush with the case. Red Loctite, but I can't find my red, so it looks like blue's going to have to do, even though I don't bet it doesn't even probably need it anyway. Alright, just drive this plug in here. Don't want to go too far. Alright, so now what we've done is we've blocked off that passage right there, that we'll look at the fluid diagram and we'll see where that passage goes and what it's for, so we know exactly why we are doing what we're doing to this. Alright, we're not just going to blindly go through and do this kind of modification. But, so now what's going to happen is when we feed third apply fluid to our direct clutch, it's going to dual feed that clutch. What we're going to have to do is drill out the orifice in the spacer, the spacer plate, just a little bit to try to give us a little bit more fluid flow, so faster apply to that clutch. So we'll have to drill that out when we get to the valve body stuff, but we can't forget to do that. So now we're getting pretty close to already being dual feeded now on that. Now we're moving on to our forward clutch here in just a second. So here's what we're left with on this. We're going to flip all these forward clutches over. We got the forward clutch hub here. Alright, we already had the piston, the spring out and everything. Alright, so there's that. We've already taken this out, so now we just need to put our new sealing rings. Now, from what I understand, I think you can dual feed this one too, but I am not necessarily going to. For some reason, I think it does actually use this back part or whatever. I'm going to go ahead and look at the fluid diagrams on that just to be sure. All right, so there is a tiny little orifice. Okay, so I was looking in the book, in the blue book, and it showed a tiny little orifice right here. So there's a teeny tiny little hole that leads to the back side of this. Yep, it's underneath that lip. So it does dual feed itself. So you put it in gear, and at first it applies this part of the piston, and once that fills up, then it applies to the outside part. So it does dual feed itself. I'm going to make sure that's blown out and cleaned out and not clogged, because then it would only be using part of it versus the entire piston. So that is the difference. Also, on the dual feeding of the direct clutches, I did a little bit more reading about that, and it does do both sides of that piston for reverse from the factory, but not in third. So that's why we are using that other part for third and reverse, because of the way we're doing it. So let me back this off here so I can get through. Now I just need to match up my 3 seals right here for my forward clutch piston. Okay, that looks like this is the outer seal. Now I got to come up with the inner seal and the intermediate seal. This is really weird that I'm not able to find this seal. Looks just like that other one. Alright, let's see, as far as my intermediate seal, it's not that one, it is that one. Alright, I gotta clean that drum out. Alright, now on this one I got to make sure that the lip is facing upwards. Alright, I got to find one that matches this. I don't know where it is in this kit. Oh, there it is. It's underneath everything. Alright. Man, I was having trouble finding this seal, but it was underneath everything. And I'll make sure it's all the way in there. There we go. Alright, so that's looking good. I got to lube up this inner seal. I also made sure I blew out that little orifice and everything. I want to make sure that this forward piston is going to seal right. And then once I get it together, I got to make sure my clutch pack clearance is good so I don't get burned up forward clutches, because you know, they looked a little distressed and everything. So lube up the inner seal. And don't be afraid to use a bunch of this stuff, because, man, I've had this bit of trans gel for, God, I think I bought it when I was in ASEP, and I'm still using it. Granted, I'm starting to get kind of low, but you know, it lasts a long time. All right, now I've got to get this in here without destroying my piston seals. That's going to be fun, because these brand new piston seals are much bigger or fatter than the factory lips have on there. There it is. Okay, here we go. Let's start in the middle, because it appears that the middle run is the one that's hanging up right off the bat. Just kind of walk it around like that. All right, it's already looking good there. Now, to get this outer seal in, that is going to be a pain in the butt. Yep. Boom. Alright, so that went all the way down. I don't see any blood, so I thought I cut myself, but no, I think I'm good. So you just got to work this around, and the nice thing about using plastic is you don't really have to worry about cutting the rubber seals, unless, I mean, you're just going to town and really messing it up. So let me clean up my spring here. I always expect to go through about 5 or 6 cans of brake cleaner on a transmission job, depending on how dirty it is. Alright, that's going to go there. And my snap ring that I got to reinstall. So let's put it on the press and let's press that in. Now that this is more solidly mounted to my bench, maybe this will be easier to do. Alright, so I got the forward clutch piston put together. Let's air check it real quick, make sure that it's okay. Alright, that's holding, we're good. Now in order to air check it, I had to put air in this hole right there, but there's also another hole on the other side, and that leads through the shaft to that hole right there, which then leads into our forward clutch. So that's looking good. I'm going to replace those Teflon seals to get even a better seal. And I'm going to replace this bushing that's inside here, that bronze one right there. So this bronze bushing that's inside here is going to get replaced. Alright, so now we're going to try to remove some bushings here. I got a bushing inside of this that I'm going to remove. This is one of the bushings in whichever drum this is. I believe this, it's not the direct, this is oh, what is this thing? Oh, this is our forward clutch bushing. So this is one of the bushings. So this is for our forward clutch inside of here. This bushing right here is the one that's worn out. I believe that this rides on for our forward clutch. So this is one of the big ones that we have to replace that may have contributed to our forward clutches being burnt. So I got that in there. Now this might prove to be a little challenging because of the way it fits on the side of this, but it looks like it's going to be good enough. Alright, so I'm going to screw this into that. And the nice thing is this puller bridge right here, all I have to do is tighten this nut down. It's then going to pull that up. I want to make sure I have a good bite on this so it doesn't unscrew instead of pulling. So here, now I will tighten this. So once I tighten this piece into this, there's a long rod that goes in there that spreads this, spreads that open like that to grab a hold of that bushing. And so now when I tighten this, it should, in theory, pull that bushing straight out. Almost need someone to hold this. Let me go get some help. Kids! Hey, who's my strongest kid? I really think I need Ellie.
Then how come I can hold this?
Because that's a can of spray paint. I need you to hold. Oh, I love it. Who's my strongest kid? My youngest daughter yells, me?
Yeah, I
Okay.
heard Owen go,
All right,
not
so
me.
I want you to hold this strong like this, because when I turn this, it's going to try to twist it.
It's weighty.
All right, bushing
I
is
did it.
out. Thank you, Ellie. All right, so this bushing's out, and you see how that grabs a hold of it, pulls it out. Thank you, Ellie. You are now my favorite oldest daughter. All right, so you can see this bushing right there. Once this thing's tight, this ball goes into the end of it, and it opens up, and that's what allows us to pull the bushing out. Okay, there it is. There's our bushing. If I measure the inside of this, let's see how much different and how worn that bushing actually is. Alright, so we're zeroed out. And the inside, .379 inches. I've got 1.381 inches, so we have 2/1000ths of diameter that one is worn. So 2/1000ths of an inch might be enough to cause a problem. I don't know. Let's go ahead and we're going ahead and replacing it because it does look a little worn. I think the correct size handle is this. Alright, so now we're in. Here's where our bearing goes. I think we're below the level right there. I think we're going to be good. I'll get this all cleaned up. We already did our piston and everything. We'll get our new clutches and everything in there. And this one will be ready to roll. This is our forward clutch. And that should better support those other seals so they can seal better on that for the forward clutch right there. I better spray this one off too. Clean off and spray out my bearings. In order to get this bearing to sit and stay in there, we're going to glue it in with some trans gel. Now there's two different ridges on this bearing, and you can see this top piece, it folds inward like this, and this bottom piece folds upwards like this. So this is going to sit down in there like that, because this outside piece is going to fit this contour right there, and then the inside piece is going to fit the contour of the shaft that fits inside of there. So I need to glue this in just like that. So just take some trans gel. I don't know what kind of junk I got on the trans gel there. Alright, we'll smear it on there, and that should stick in so it won't fall out. So you can see right here, boom, that's like stuck in. It won't fall out. Alright, so now I can flip it over, and now I can get my clutches in here. This is probably where I need to consult with Uncle Si, because the way I have them sitting right now, I don't think is going to be right. I'm not going to put them in there with a clutch disc first. Because if I did that, it would be a clutch disc sitting on the apply piston. Instead, I'm pretty sure it's this one right here. You can see this is one of those Belleville spring plates that's going to go down on the bottom. Now the question is, which way do I install it? Do I install it down, or do I install it up, facing up? It looks like we got some witness marks here that we can look at. And this looks like the witness marks going all the way around. That is this piston right there. So I'm just going to wipe that off, get all the junk off of there from the burnt clutches. And I'm going to face that part down. Alright, that means the next thing that's going to go on is going to be a steel plate. I got all new steels for this because these look a little bit burnt. They're not awful, but they are burnt. So I'm going to have to find those replacement steels. I got replacement clutches and some steels. Hopefully I can get my clearances good. Now if you didn't get replacement steels, you can kind of clean them up, just kind of sand them a little bit. But I got all new ones. We'll see how this goes. Now I need to find my clutch discs that match that. And I'm pretty sure the clutch discs for this clutch right here, the direct clutch and this forward clutch, are probably the same. They all look the exact same. I got a whole bunch of them. I'm pretty sure I can't stick all those in there. I can't just stick all these in there because that's friction on friction, and that's considered bad. It's considered bad because they'll just burn them up. So I'm going to alternate. Let's see how many frictions are in this thing. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frictions. So I'm just going to get 5 frictions out of the pile here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stick my other ones back in the bag. Save them until I need them. Okay, got steels and frictions here. So we're going to start off with a steel. You can see the steels have the splines on the outer side, and the clutches, the splines are on the inner side. Alright, so we have 1. Then we're going to go, oh yeah, almost forgot. the clutch hub on the inside we're going to have to put in there too, because that's what these are going to spline to, and it's going to be difficult to get it together if we don't have this already in there and we can slide them on. So I'm going to go ahead and spray this off, and you can see we have a bushing right here, and that bushing, oops, that bushing is what's going to ride right there. You can see that. And then we have another plastic spacer right there that's going to be what the next clutch that sits on that's going to be riding on. Let me spray this off and clean it off. So I think they say if you're planning on putting more than, I think, 800 or 1,000 to the wheels, this is one of the parts that you upgrade. They make a billet piece of this, but we're not going to be going that bit. We're not going with that much power, so we don't need billet. We don't have to get crazy with it. All right. So we put one steel in. I'm going to take one steel and I'm going to set it aside so I can keep track of the count. Now we're going one friction. All right, it's on. Friction goes. Now we're back to a steel. And just because I'm a little anal about it, I don't know if it's supposed to be, we have these couple flat parts. I'm going to keep lining the flats up. I don't know if it's even necessary, but that's what I'm going to do. So that steel plate can go away. We're going to keep flipping back and forth, and we don't want to get our count off, because sometimes if you don't do this, you can accidentally stack like two frictions together, or then two steels together. Although two steels doesn't hurt you, but two frictions will. And then we're going to check our clearance after we're done with this. Come on, drop straight down. Okay, that's that steel. Now we're going to go for the next friction. Friction's gone, next steel. Steel's out of here. Next friction. Friction's out of here. Next steel, that's that one, and then the next friction, boom, that's this one. All right, now you can see we're left with a friction on the top, and this is going to be our apply plate right here. Now, whatever failed originally in this transmission before it was built as a Serta must have been something in the forward clutch. This thing actually does have a groove there I can catch my fingernail on, but they reused this apply plate. Can you guys see that groove? I don't know if the light is quite right. So something failed. I wonder if it was this clutch hub. I don't really know. But you can see it gouged that thing. Oh well, I think we'll be alright. It looks okay. Now I'm sure some of you guys are like, wait a second. Aren't you supposed to soak those clutches in transmission fluid? And I guess the answer is really yes. But if you soak them, then it could affect your clutch pack clearance. A lot of people say to do your clutch pack clearance dry. So I'm going to do the clutch pack clearance dry and not soak them right now. In fact, I've worked with a ton of people who actually don't even soak them and then just throw them in there. And as soon as this thing starts running, your clutches start getting fluid to them through lubrication, just splashing everywhere in there. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, ideally I think you're supposed to soak them, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my clutch pack clearance, and then I can soak them, rub them down with some fluid, and it'll be good. Alright, see, to get down even to it, to do our clutch pack clearance is going to be rather difficult. So actually, in order to check the clearance, I'm going to leave the hub out. There we go. Stick our snap ring in. Alright, as you can see, the feeler gauge method is not going to work on this because we can't even get down there to these clutches. Now, I'm not even 100% sure the other method is going to work that it tells you to do, but I'm going to give it a shot. So what it wants us to use is a dial indicator, but we got to get way down there to where the clutches are to check the clutch pack travel. Plus, it wants a spec of like 121 to 186 thousandths, which would be like adding up, you know, a whole bunch of these. I mean, it's going to be clutch pack travel, let's see. Right here, this is only not even 70 thousandths, and then, you know, it's probably something close to that. I mean, this is quite a bit of clutch pack travel. I mean, I can look in here, I can flip it upside down, and I can see that they don't travel that much. But what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and test it. Now, the way they want us to test this is they want me to take the turbine shaft off of this, and then we'll stick it in there, and then we'll air check it with a dial indicator on the top side. So let's give it a shot. Now I gotta find my small snap ring pliers. I haven't used them in a while, so they're way under here. Alright, so we got the small snap ring off. There's also a small bushing in here that we're going to have to try to replace, and another larger bushing inside of here. So we'll have to replace those. This one, that might be a tough one to... That one doesn't even look worn, but we'll go ahead and see what we can do about replacing all these. Now it says, place it in a soft-jawed vise. Well, I don't know if I'd say my vise is soft-jawed, but it's got jaws, so it's going to have to do. I'll put a towel around this shaft right here to hold it in place. Alright, so we're going to wrap this thing up. I'm going to place it in here to hold it still. Alright, so we're not moving anywhere. And there's a couple of holes. So you can see we got one hole right there and another hole right there. I have to plug one hole over here and put air in the other, and then it'll come out up here out of this hole into the forward clutch. So we'll take our forward clutch and install it. This is where those Teflon seals are pretty important. Alright, let me grab my dial indicator and I'll see if I can get it down in there to even check this. Now these clearances are pretty important, so I do want to make sure that I get it right, because I don't want to ruin my new build. Some of them are kind of difficult to get. Like, can I get that down there on that clutch? And maybe if I move clutches way over, exposes them over here to where we can get on it. Yeah, there we go. And we'll be able to see it. It's always easier if you don't have a lot of twist in your, or a lot of angle in the snake, but this is all I really have at the moment. So we'll see. Man, can I get in there and get an accurate measurement? Okay, it's sitting on one of the teeth. I'm going to zero it out. Alright, I guess we'll see what happens here. I'm going to plug one of the holes here and then see what we go to right there. $15 thousandths. I don't think that's right. 74 thousandths. Up down to 2 thousandths. So I'm actually a little bit tight. I'm looking at 74 thousandths. It's a little on the tight side, but to be honest with you, I kind of think I want this a little on the tight side. So I guess that's going to be good enough. That was weird. Typically we can use feeler gauges, but this is a weird setup on this thing. Alright, so personally I think the 74 thousandths that I have right here is not too tight. I think we're going to be good. Amazing how much play there is. And that's a brand new bushing right there even. There's just a lot of play up there. And so that's why we have to replace those Teflon seals. So I'm going to put my forward clutch hub back in. Now the question is, can I get this in there without... I really don't think there's any way without pulling everything back completely apart. Oh. Alright, so that one dropped all the way down actually. Bam. Alright, this forward clutch hub assembly is completely ready to roll. So that one's ready to go. Did I have... Oh yeah, I wanted to drill the hole in the direct clutch assembly. I still have to do that. I still got some bushings to replace in a couple of these things. I got that output bushing to do. And I got these seals right here. I guess we can go over the Teflon seals. I got the special tools for that. Alright, so these little Teflon seals right here, they're pretty small. Okay, so this bag right here comes with a few Teflon seals. Some of them, they give you the option to use the scarf cut ones that are actually cut, but I think it's best to use the full, all the way around Teflon seals. I don't really care for using, actually that's all the way around too, I think. Yeah, I don't. Are there scarf cut ones in here? Maybe not. Maybe they're in a different bag. I like using the Teflon seals as long as you got the special tools for it. So this one's going to replace these two Teflon seals, and then I got two more down here to replace. I'll show you the tools for that. Right. Hold on. Shaft. Sorry, my daughter just learned how to ride her bike, you know, amid this COVID-19 deal. And unfortunately, she took her first big fall coming around the corner just a second ago. But you know how it is. Alright, so what I like to do is I like to just take my pick, and you can practically poke through these seals. They're Teflon, so you can kind of dig through them. And if it's an older transmission, they just kind of break real easily. Like this one's been sitting so long. This Teflon seals, they just kind of break. You know, these will get brittle over time. These you got to replace. If you don't replace them, you run the risk of them going bad after this. So I'm going to take both of them off. See, I can stab right through it and they just kind of break. They're pretty old. Alright, now we have special tools for this. So we have this little guy right here. That its job is to allow us to slide the seal over down to that level right there without tearing the seal. Because if you're trying to just push one of these things over, I mean, good luck, right? They're sized down to approximately the same size as that shaft. So we got to be able to get it over that shaft. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull this thing all the way up. We're on the second seal down, and you can see it leaves that opening pretty far open. Now the little trick you can do is you can heat up a bunch of water really hot and dip these in it and soften them up. Although if you have the special tools, you really don't need that. I take Transgel and I smear Transgel all over them. And usually there's a special tool to help push them over, but a lot of times it doesn't work very well either. So I just use my hands. There we go. And you can see it has to stretch that Teflon seal pretty far, and then you got to be careful not to push it too far. And once you get over there, it's gonna, you can see it's way too big. So then what we need to do is I always kind of push it back in a little bit. And here's where heating it up in water kind of may help a little bit, just because it keeps it a little bit more pliable. But there's a special tool right here. You can see this side has a big taper on it. This side has a small taper. So we're going to use the big taper first. And we're going to push it down on there. We don't want to force it and cut this seal. But just kind of walk it on there. Okay. So there, I walked it on there and down. It's all the way down, so that does the main sizing. So it gets the rough shape, and now we're going to do this outside, the smaller one. Bam. So this is going to be the final size. We're going to leave that on there for just a couple seconds while we get our new one. It tells us in service information, leave it on there for at least a minute. Well, you can see on the corner right there. Oh, she's back at it. Back on that bike, girl. Yeah! Way to go, Bales!
Harley, my advice to you is just watch out for her. Because she goes where she goes.
Man, she got back on that bike after wiping out. Man. Proud dad moment right there. The wipeout's also on video. You can hear whoop, whoosh, ah! Like, oh no. Cut?
Are you still videoing right now?
Yeah. Alright. So for the second one, I'm going to turn this to number 1. I think it goes number 1. So yeah, number 1, it sets this depth. You can see now our number 1 depth, it's up there at the top one. So this should be pretty easy to push over. We already got some lube on there. Here, we'll pull it down, and it should, there it goes, right there in that spot. Kind of push it so it goes back to its original size. And so there is no way you're ever going to get this shaft back into that forward clutch until you resize these seals. So we got the big one right there for the kind of the gross adjustment. And let's, come on. You don't want to force it down because it might cut that. Come on. There we go. So I got that to slide on there. And this thing is gonna size it. I'm gonna leave it on for just a second. Then I'll flip it over for the other adjustment. All right. All right. So this is going to do the sizing. We're going to leave it on there for a couple minutes. I want them to stay small, but this is where these seals wear out and everything. Then you get a little bit of a leakage past all that stuff. All right. So I do have these seals down here to do, so I might as well just cut them off. So that's the longer side of the shaft, and we have the tool for that too. That's going to be the one, it's a bigger one, same type of deal, but it's longer so it can reach down to these. So let me put the tool away before I go losing stuff. Alright, and since those seals are bigger, they require this tool right here, this larger one that fits down on there. So I'm going to flip it around. I'm going to hold it on the bushing part right there, and we'll do those. So my seals are not cut or anything. We're good to go. Okay, so now this shaft's in here, and we got to replace these seals down here. Make sure it's in the camera. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and push through with that, the pick, and rip them. They come off pretty easy. All right. So remember, you always have to start with the bottom one first. You can't start with the top one because you'll never get your special tool all the way down there. So right now you can see it's on the top one, and the tool is actually set on number 2 right here. So actually I want to come over here to number 1. There it is, number 1. Drops it down to this lower one. A lot of the newer ones just have a little screw that you screw down. You can adjust them and do a whole bunch of different ones, like on the pump and everything. So, which seals are these? These are going to be the next bigger ones. You see, we can size them up, I guess. All right, let me get some trans gel on my fingers. Alright, so lube it all up with some trans gel. You can see we just got to push it over this cone part. Alright, we'll push it down. There we go. And we need the special sizer. You see you got the big size right there. This is a large taper. This is the small one for the final, so we do this adjustment first. Just want to make sure I'm not going to pinch it and ruin it. Alright, I'm going to flip it now. And this thing doesn't want to go all the way down. I'll lube it up, I guess. There we go. Alright, now I'm just going to let it sit down there for a minute while I get ready for the next one. We'll go ahead and switch it to number 2, which isn't hard to do. Alright, so now we're on number 2. Slide that one off. Oops. There we go. Got trans gel on there. The faster you do it, the less it stays expanded. So if you just kind of go quickly, I was trying to go slow for the camera, but if you do it quickly, it kind of wants to go back to its original shape pretty quick. And alright, got that to drop over them. We'll switch back to the other one, the final adjustment. Alright, now we're cooking. Alright, and as you can see over here, I got to do the same thing for my, I guess that's on my center support. And I got the center support seals right here. And you see I got those right there. I'm just going to put this thing back on there to keep them sized. Alright, so we're just going to let that sit there for a little while we work on that one. Set it aside. It's amazing how much better it goes whenever you have all the correct tools. Alright, we can see we have our 4 sealing rings right here on our center support. And just like we did on our others, let's go ahead and take those off. Now that all those are off, I'm going to install all but the second one. I'm going to leave the second one for the dual feed mod. So I'm going to run this all the way up in here, so this will reach down for that bottom one. You can see this one just unscrews. I'm going to tighten it. There we go. See, I tightened it, so now it's right there at that groove. And we're going to take our seals out of our kit here. They gave us 4 of them. We only need 3. Start with this one. Put it on there. Do the same thing as we did with our turbine shaft seals. The only problem with this one is getting all the way down there is kind of tough. Luckily we have the special tool. So we'll do this side first. Let's push this ring into its slot to try to kind of pre-size it with our fingers. Get it lined up. And I'm going to lube it up with trans gel. That always seems to help. Lube up both sides of this thing. Oh yeah, now we're looking good. So just make sure, just make sure that goes down nice and smooth. Flip it over, same thing. There we go. Okay, I can tell it finally went all the way down. We'll let it settle. The ones that are a little further up are going to be a little bit easier because it's not going to be all the way at the very bottom. We'll be able to know whenever it's all the way down. All right, we'll loosen this up just a little bit for the next one. Okay, that seal looks good. Oops, oh, I went the wrong way, I got to tighten it. Alright, so there's the next seal ring right there. So we're ready to slide that one on. Lube it up with some trans gel. Alright, pre-size by hand. Take this, get everything centered up, drop it down on it. There we go. There we go. And we'll run this one. Oh yeah. So it's not this part that seats, yeah, that goes way, okay. Okay, now like I said, we're going to leave the second one down off. So we just need to go to this top seal now. Okay. My hands are covered in trans gel right now, so it should be able to be done without going to lube it up. Okay. Slide that on. There we go. Now usually the top one's pretty easy to get on just because you can kind of wiggle it around a lot better. There's other tricks where you can use like a pop bottle or something, or like one of these quick trip cups. You can take this and wrap it around there if you get one long enough, and then you can put a hose clamp around it, and there's other tricks you can do while at home. But if you have access to the correct tools, definitely I would suggest using the correct tools for this. There's my initial one, then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to leave it on there for a little while I do some of the other stuff. Okay. Bam. Alright, that's all the way down. That's going to size all those seals. We're going to leave it on there. On our newer transmission, it says minimum 5 minutes. So we're going to do that. We're going to leave it on there.